I'm Farhan Dalla, transformational trainer, and welcome to Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast, an invitation to take the journey towards your deepest self. It is my intention to inspire you to connect, move, and meditate. We'll tap in, tune in, and dive in, and together learn and reflect from authentic, real, and transformative conversations. Let's get started. Ilya moaned at the hot slide of Hollander's tongue against his. He tugged roughly on the hair at the back of Hollander's head, tipping his head back so he could deepen the kiss. They broke apart, and Hollander looked at him, eyes wild and dark hair a mess, silently begging for instruction. On your knees, Ilya said softly, just to see what he would do. Expecting Hollander to tell him to fuck off, Ilya's breath caught in his throat as he watched him sink fluidly to the floor. His gaze stayed on Ilya. Those eyes that were always so sharp were now hazy with desire as he leaned forward to nuzzle and mouth at the bulge in Ilya's sweatpants. Christ, Hollander, Ilya breathed, gently pulling at Hollander's hair as he pressed hot, open-mouthed kisses to the fabric that pulled tight over Ilya's erection. He felt dizzy and less in control than he wanted to be as Hollander tucked fingers into Ilya's waistband and pulled down until Ilya's cock was freed. That was from the book Heated Rivalry by author Rachel Reed. My goodness. Today I want to talk about Heated Rivalry. Okay. I cannot get enough of this show, and I'm currently reading all the books in the series. And, well, let's say if you thought the show was steamy, you should read the books if you haven't already. This show has had a huge impact in so many ways. I want to share some of the stats with you of this huge show. Okay? This is pretty mind-blowing. Let's first give a big shout out to the Queen, Rachel Reed, the author who wrote the books the show is based on. This first stat is dedicated to her. On February 10th, 2020, CBC reported that Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed is the #1 Canadian fiction title this week on the Canadian fiction charts, and 5 titles from the Game Changer series are in the top 10. Okay. It is a Crave record breaker. It is the most watched original series debut in the history of Crave, which is the Canadian streaming platform where we watch the show in Canada. Yes, people, the show was birthed by Crave into the visual streaming world. We thank you, Crave Canada. Let's talk about the explosive demand. In mid-January 2026, the demand for the show in Canada was 51.6 times higher than the average series, ranking it #2 on the digital demand list. Let's talk about the global peak. The series peaked at 95 times the average series global demand. In terms of streaming minutes, I've got some stats in regards to the United States. The US viewership on HBO Max grew from 30 million minutes at its debut to 324 million minutes by the season finale. In terms of the ratings, the season finale, The Cottage, holds a 9.9 out of 10 rating on IMDb, making it one of the highest rated TV episodes of 2025. Okay. The domination of this show includes book sales. The Game Changers book series has sold over 2.1 million copies. In terms of hockey interest, since the show's release, StubHub has reported a 40% surge in interest for hockey tickets. And in musical influence, there was also a huge musical surge. The song I'll Believe in Anything by Wolf Parade saw a 1,650% increase in global streams on Spotify after being featured in the pivotal scene of episode 5. And who could ever forget the kiss shared by Scott and Kip? I still get chills when I think about that scene. And I still remember I was ugly crying when I watched it. And I still get choked up when I think about it. And guys, all of this was the result of a show that was on a very low budget. The show was produced on a relatively small budget for its scale, reportedly less than 5 million Canadian dollars per episode, compared to 50 to 60 million, I believe, US dollars per episodes of the show Stranger Things. In terms of public funding, the Canadian government supported the project with a $3.1 million donation from the Canada Media Fund, plus additional tax credits. This show could not have been made without the support of the Canadian government. All right. Let's talk about how this show impacted me personally. Okay. This show means a lot to me as a queer man because I got to see a show that celebrates queer joy. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Okay. I'm going to take a deep breath. Specifically, episode 5 of Heated Rivalry had some powerful moments that really resonated with me. Okay. First of all, let's talk about a show in terms of queer content where no one died of AIDS or something terrible happened to the main character. There was no Brokeback Mountain moment where the two main characters couldn't be together. And for once, we saw a happy ending for Scott and Kip, as well as we see Shane and Ilya ride off into the sunset. At least for now. We will have to see what the future holds when the second season is released, but I am optimistic. I'm certain Rachel Reed knows exactly what she's going to do with these characters, and I hope that the theme of queer joy, despite any challenges that these characters may face, will be continue to be the central part of the stories of these incredible characters whom we've all fallen in love with. Okay. But the scene that had the greatest impact on me was when Ilya was in Moscow and speaking with Shane over the phone. Ilya was struggling to speak in English about his father's transitioning. So Shane suggested he tells him how he's feeling in Russian and he'll just listen. This is where we see Ilya break open and reveal his love for Shane. The three things that resonated with me with this scene, and I had to spend a lot of time thinking about it and find the words to articulate what I was feeling. And finally, I saw exactly what I've wanted and desired in a partner and in a long-term relationship. But I'll get to that part in a second. First thing that was just so evident to me was the idea that I believe that love is a frequency. Love is a frequency. I believe love is a frequency, and it is something that is felt beyond words. Even though Shane didn't speak Russian, I'm sure he felt what Ilya was saying. He absolutely felt it. And this scene powerfully demonstrated that. Ilya becomes vulnerable, and I love this about him, which brings me to my second point that was so clear in this scene, and that is vulnerability is the doorway to our hearts. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It is the doorway to our hearts. And on the other side of that door is freedom. The freedom for us to receive and give love wholeheartedly. We can send and receive love from one another without words. If there's someone you love, take a moment now and close your eyes If it is safe to do so, don't do this while you're driving, but if it is safe to do so, I want you to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Take 3 deep breaths. Keep your hand on your heart and take those deep breaths and feel yourself connected to your heart. And hold the intention to send that person love. And I know they'll receive it. We can even send love to our loved ones on the other side. And whether the person you sent love to was on the other side or here with us in this world, ask them to give you a sign back to let you know and to confirm that they got your message. And just watch and listen and pay attention. Third, how to hold space. Now, this was the profound aspect of this scene. Shane listened and held space for Ilya. And this was the most powerful moment of the show, at least for me. What I saw for the first time on television was what I desired the most in a partner, long-term relationship and or husband. This is number one for me, and that is to be fully witnessed, heard, and seen in my most difficult times without someone trying to fix me or offer a solution to the situation or distract me from the pain or discomfort. The greatest thing a partner could give me is their full presence. And I saw this the way Shane was present for Ilya, the way he closed his eyes and just listened, even though he didn't understand Russian. To see this was a huge moment for me. And now I have a greater belief that this is possible for me too. I hope that when people watch this episode, in particular this scene, that they see how much love you can show a person by witnessing them fully. My word for 2026 is unmasking. This was inspired by Kip's character. Kip represents to me where I want to be in my queer journey, and that is to live my life completely authentically. And that can be scary for many reasons. I can relate to the fears of coming out with the other characters like Shane, Ilya, and Scott. Many of us queer folks have had to live double lives or be careful how and who we reveal ourselves to because there could be possibility of threat, rejection, and in some cases, unfortunately, physical harm. Every time I'm about to reveal myself to someone, I take a deep breath, and there's anxiety around that. Still, to this day, we live each day as queer folks. When we go out into the world, that we may not always be able to live freely. I still look for my safe spaces. Recently, I released a video on TikTok and Instagram where I talked about the homophobia I experienced as a physiotherapist while working with hockey players. And I received some hate messages, and there were a few attempts to hack my Instagram account. But I also received a lot of positive messages as well. I still am a bit guarded in many ways, but Kip's character has inspired me to live authentically and unapologetically. I'm still working on this, but I want to say wearing a mask is exhausting, but being yourself is liberating. And I want to live that way always. To see this show have the success it has is mind blowing to me, considering my history in working with hockey players and as a physiotherapist. It gives me hope for change. There are even hockey podcast shows talking about each episode. And I'm hoping this will help many closeted athletes and open minds for all sports. However, we have a long way to go. Francois Arnault, who plays Scott Hunter, has criticized the NHL for failing to adequately support the LGBTQ plus community while simultaneously leveraging the show's popularity for marketing, such as using the show for social media engagement and boosting ticket sales. While joking about the failing comment, he urged the league to move beyond performative actions and foster a safer environment for queer players. I want to follow up with what Francois said. I think he's right. As I said, I'm a physiotherapist and I've worked with many hockey players from a variety levels of sports, including the Olympics and pro levels, as well as for recreational purposes. I have witnessed and experienced the hypermasculine and homophobic culture that I saw encouraged from the coaches. I know a lot of queer folks are rushing to get tickets to watch NHL hockey, but I'd like you to consider this. If the NHL is really a safe space for the LGBTQ folks community, then why aren't there any openly gay hockey players? I was in a situation where I witnessed at my workplace where a homophobic slur was made by a coach to another hockey player for drinking green tea. And that said, I'm not sure if a show based on a book about hockey romance with two queer characters will create change. I believe in order for changes to take place, then it'll have to be made at all leadership levels to create a safe space for all queer hockey players. And this includes the coaches. I never thought I would go public with my story. When this occurred, everyone went into immediate damage control at work. I personally dealt with the situation myself with the coach directly. He apologized, claiming he had no idea that I was gay, but I made it clear that this was my workspace and I wouldn't tolerate homophobia. The management was afraid this would get out, but I wouldn't have let that happen because I feared retaliation at that time. Retaliation from hockey players, fans, coaches, and possibly my employer. Though it's been many years, please understand and try to empathize that it has taken me a lot of courage to tell my story. I'm glad I spoke up to the person who made the comment. But what he doesn't also realize is that the person who he made that comment to could have possibly been gay, or he could have said it in the presence of a gay player who just happened to be there. It is this behavior that creates a culture that prevents gay players from coming out. I'd also like to add that in an interview, Hudson Williams, who plays Shane, mentioned that there were closeted hockey players that have reached out to him either through Rachel Reed, who's the author of the books, directly or directly to him. There are still no openly gay hockey players, and that speaks volumes. It is my hope that we will one day see major changes in the NHL and that it fosters inclusivity. But for now, myself and many others, you can find us at the Cottage. I'm Farhan Dalla. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's episode of Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast. I hope today's conversation has elevated you in some way and inspired you to connect, move, and meditate. I'd really appreciate your support by following and rating this podcast. Come back soon and join me for another transformative conversation.